Good morning. I'm Denise Dryden here with my weekly What are you noticing? What's going on? And, the focus is always going to be on parenting, on relationships, on us and another person. Last week I talked about helicopter parents and helicoptering, like what happens when we get in real tight and we don't give someone any space to grow or learn, right? And we get entangled. So if you want that as a base, go back and watch last week's or the previous video from me, because today what I want to do is focus specifically on how to stop helicoptering, right? So the topic for today is like there's helicoptering or there's hovering or there's codependence, right? There's this interweaving of codependence between you and another or you and people. And I want to talk about how we're going to stop that. Okay. So, first and foremost, we create in energetic entanglements with our children, with our partners, with our coworkers, with our bosses. If we have a propensity towards dependence, we're going to create a codependent relationship. And I'm going to define codependence for this video and for the work that I do as when we care more or we are more focused on the external than we are on ourselves, right? And so, it makes sense that these things happen, especially as parents, because when there's an illness or an injury, let's say that that something didn't go according to plan, right? So there's an injury, there's surgery, there's something that's needed, right? In parenting there might be markers that are missed, or hazy, and you're just not sure, that and you're reading the books or you're talking to people and you don't know, and your anxiety starts to go up, right? Or you already are a fairly anxious person, and all of this new, birthing, raising a kid, going into a new relationship, starting a new job, whatever it is, right? Starts this level of anxiety and worry in you. And the other thing is that when we have memories or we have trauma that are triggered, like, oh no, this is what happened to my mom. This is what I've heard. And we bring in these traumas, right? And what happens is we step in and we try to control because we're discomfort, or we're uncomfortable, we're in discomfort. And when we know what to do, when we know how to plan it, we step in and we control, right? So helicoptering is really about control. It's about working with triggers and anxieties. It's about working with adaptability on things that don't always go the way that you would have wanted them to go, and being able to be flexible with that. So to start, I want to define the word dependent, because I think it makes a lot of sense. To be dependent is to be influenced or controlled by something else or someone else. It's external, which is whatever that person does, it affects me, which is basically the definition of codependence, right? It's when we're subordinate to another. It's when we rely on support or aid. And anyone who's had a 14-year-old who doesn't know how to do chores, or has never made their own money, or gets off to college and has no skills and is struggling because they're away from you. We know that this is what happens when there's over reliance or too much support coming from the parents. The same thing with spouses or partners when you're traveling, or when a challenge comes up and that person has to go focus elsewhere, is that it starts to realize that I've become very, very dependent on this person. And the last one, which I love, is that it's conditioned by another. It's something that we learn, and we learn it through, it's a condition to reaction to needs, to our view of autonomy, right? And it's created by the other. It's created by a parent. It's created by a partner in relationships. It could be friends, parents, um, uh, spouses, partners, right? And it can also be created, conditioning and dependence can be created by systems. And so part of what I've done in the Indigo, I'm looking for my book yet again. I need to have it out when I'm talking. In the Indigo assignment, is that I talk a lot about how systems within, especially our American, because that's going to be the lens I use, viewpoint, is that a lot of our work has been conditioned, whether it's conditioned schooling, conditioned financials, conditioned lifestyle. right? So we create this dependency so that we can stay comfortable within the conditioned state. You get up on the edges of conditioning and you start to get really uncomfortable. So what we do is it activates our nervous system, it activates our anxiety, and we step in and we control, right? So parenting is about nervous systems, it's about body energetics, it's about frequency and the reactions to something when it changes, especially between a parent and a child, especially when that has all been trained through the mother child in the womb. The child becomes very, very comfortable with a certain agitation frequency, a certain sleep pattern, a certain eating pattern. And so by the time that they are actually birthed through and into their own into autonomous living breathing human, they are going to replicate everything that they felt inside the womb, and that's going to be comfort for them. So there's just so many parts to this codependence, especially in the parent child, especially in the mother child relationship, that makes it kind of complex. Not even kind of, really complex, right? So these energetic entanglements, they start really early, and then we lock them in or we can release them. And so what I want to talk about today is that maybe we locked them in. Maybe we didn't know any better. We did the best we could, and now we have an opportunity to release them. So we need to explore ways to unwind those energetic, where my field and your field is completely entwined and they're messy, right? We need to look at our nervous system. We need to look at our condition state, because if we don't look at the condition state, then we don't know what the bigger picture is. And we need to trust ourselves, like really trust ourselves. So it comes down to two things. It comes down to self knowledge, that we do this to build self trust. So our self knowledge and self trust are intertwined. Because if we know ourselves, we know what to trust. If we don't know ourselves, we don't know where to place our trust. So sometimes, as we said, this begins in pregnancy, in the early pre stages of a relationship. Let's say that we have markers in our head that, if she loved me, they would hit this marker at this time. And when they don't, the trust goes up, right? So fears, inadequacies, family expectations and stories, conditioned states are all pre-existing things that affect our ability to trust, self-knowledge and trust, right? So the second thing is that events transpire that cause us to react. Make no mistake that it's terrifying when you birth a baby and the baby isn't breathing and you have to put them on in an incubator. They have to be on a support system for a little while. What that does to the dependence, like I'm a mother now and I need to protect, right? Or a father and I need to protect. I'm not being trying to be selective of one or the other. When there's an injury, when there's surgeries, there are certain physical body types that have surgeries to correct hearts, to correct tongue, to correct um, joints that are out of, off, or even bones that were broken during birthing, right? These are things that happen. So they're health concerns. Then after the baby's born, there's things like, are they able to latch during nursing? Are they having seizures? And then like, has my relationship with my partner changed? Or is our relationship now in a different stage and it's not easy? Think about other transitions that happen, whether it's new jobs, moving, whatnot, all in these first 1, 2, 3 years of a child's birth. It means that those events have us sort of lean in and grab a hold and get really dependent. And then there's markers of growth. Are they reading at this time? Are they doing this? Are they keeping up with the norms or the conditioned state, right? So we create reliance and we compensate. So we compensate for what that child is doing or not doing. So the helicoptering starts so early that we don't even know we're doing it. And we're activated and we increase our field of attachment and we entangle more. So what I did was I broke down 4 tools that we could use to break this dependence, to break this helicoptering. So a tool is something you use. This is a tool. It's a pen, right? A skill is what I can do with it. I can draw. I can write cursive. I can print. I can change colors. But it's the skill is what I do with that tool, right? So tool number 1 is, am I in their field or am I in my field? Do I know the difference. Know your field. So the tool is that I have a field. It's about 3 feet around me at the, average. I can bring it in real tight. I can expand it real wide. And I need to know where it's at. I need to know if I'm in the center. I need to know if I can even feel it, right? Can I bring it in small and contract it when I need to stay sort of internal? Can I expand it and be inclusive and nurturing? But I need to be able to know my field. So, once you know the field, which is the tool is the field, then you work on where you move it. And is it in there or is it not? Tool number two, am I in their field? And do I need to remove myself from that field? So that tool is like, oh no, I just realized that I've enmeshed two fields and I'm in my child's field all the time. I'm in my partner's field all the time. I'm worried and I've just decided to sort of come in and glom on and be in their field. So the skills are to be able to gently pull your energy back, right? Into your own circumference, into your own 3 foot field, or to unwind. How do you unwind and disentangle everything? Like, oh, I'm stepping back. And we do this in our partnerships, right? I love you, but I'm stepping back because I'm enmeshed and I'm in your field, right? And then, you got to bring yourself back in. And the most interesting part about that is that you have to hold both you and the other in compassion because you're detangling it, right? And part of tool number two, which is when when you need to extricate yourself from somebody's field, is you have to acknowledge what you're doing. Oh my goodness, I just realized that I have just enmeshed completely, or I've just glommed on, or I can't tell the difference between my field and your field. And so I'm going to start untangling it and just give me a minute, to get me back into myself. This is a crucial ability to be able to acknowledge to the other, this is what I'm doing, because when you just like and you back off, the person that you've been holding, supporting, overcompensating for feels complete abandonment, right? Makes sense. Tool number three is to empower. I've got a nose that just won't stop dripping today. So to empower yourself and to empower the other. So empower means to be able to share power, to be able to give power, to be able to hold power. So skills that are valuable on that are to be able to use specific words to validate what you just did. So you talk to yourself internally like, wow, I just noticed that I was completely in that field. And then I gently realized how to get back into the center. And I did a pretty good job with that. Then you have empowered yourself. Or you can even say that to the other, which is, I just realized that I'm completely doing your homework with you, or I'm walking with my hands behind you because I'm afraid you're going to fall, right? And I need to just take a step back. Right? I need to take a step back because I'm noticing that you've got this and your legs are really strong, and you give them their autonomy, you give them their sovereignty. And I'm going to let you figure that out. Come find me if you need something, right? And the other part with a skill on how to empower is that if they're struggling, like I don't know how to I watch my little 19-month-old grand. I wonder what you're going to do with that. I wonder where that goes. And so I stay back and I hold myself in my field, but I'm also completely present to her and asking her questions to support her discovery. And then I notice that with this empowerment, it's like I see it, I noticed it, I felt something. I'm going to state something that I just did. And then I'm going to, hand that power over to, especially to this little one and I'm like, wow, look at you. You just figured that out. Wow. Yeah, you put the frog in the cup. You did this, you did that. And then she kind of looks and she's like, yeah, I know how to do this. And I'm not entangled with her, right? Tool number four is to acknowledge that there's going to be pain, discomfort, even anger that comes up when we disengage from another person's field. Especially if you've got a 13-year-old who you've been hovering around the whole time. And then you just sort of go, hey, I think you've got this. They're like, no, I don't. And they blame you because when they don't know what to do, they blame. When we don't know what to do, we blame the other because the other's just rocked our world. It's just rocked us out of our stability, right? So the idea is that to recognize that there is going to be a reaction of pain, of discomfort, of anger. Okay. So there's skills. I have 4 skills that go with this. So one skill is I feel shit. Shoot. I feel fear. I feel failure. I feel abandoned. I feel anger. And you acknowledge this like, man, I'm really pissed off. I didn't realize how much I've been doing for him every single day, right? In our partnership, or how much, how it hurts to just watch my little toddler turn and run away when I've been worried about him or her the whole time, right? So I'm learning how to do something different, but I'm having a feeling. It's all right. Acknowledge it. You have to acknowledge that I'm having a feeling, and there might be some real big discomfort there. There might even be like some pain, right? Another skill is to gently and firmly communicate, which is, wow, I'm feeling so much. I'm so uncomfortable about the way that this is going. And I'm working on that. Right? And you're learning how to set a boundary, which is that's you over there and this is me over here. And I'm going to talk about what's going on inside me, right? For me, for my field. Another skill is to ease out and stay out as the observer and sort of like acknowledge, wow, that felt a little uncomfortable. And it's sort of like you go slow, kind of like when you're putting your foot in really hot water, or you're trying something that you're scared of, like diving off of a board or something. You go like, ah, and you have to observe, and then you go, I think I'm doing this. I'm actually holding my own autonomy and I'm actually doing this. This is pretty amazing. So we use this communication to acknowledge that there was discomfort and now there isn't, or even was anger. I have never been so angry about this. And now I'm realizing it's calmed down and it's sort of wafted past. Okay. And the last skill in acknowledging when you're in pain, when you're in discomfort, or when you're in anger because you're disseminating, pulling apart, watching and then pulling apart these separate entities. There's you and there's me, right? Is when you don't know how to do that, you can ask for assistance. You can ask a sister, a brother. You could ask your partner. You could even ask another child. You could ask a coach. You could ask anybody and say, I'm having a really hard time doing this. Because as soon as it gets into discomfort, I jump back in because it triggers all of my anxiety. And you're like, yeah, I know. This is a tough one. And so ask for assistance when you need it. Because in order to acknowledge that you have pain, discomfort, and anger in the separation process, you have to have tools to know what to do when this comes up. So, this is the kind of stuff I've been working on a lot lately because I believe that we are creating our own independence from systems that have been controlling us for a long time. And yes, we have a very helicopter behavior when we are stressed, and whether it comes out in our kids or in our relationships or in our jobs around money or whatever it is, pay attention and go through some of these tools and see if they work. And if you need any assistance with that, you can always find me at denisdryden.com. And I've got a few coaching spots open. I always try to keep my solid ones and then have 1 or 2 coming in as I'm going along. So I would love to hear from you. Have a great Sunday and I'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.